New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new Connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com. New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis, a podcast dedicated to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday afternoon on the 22nd of December, and we thought we would be doing a podcast today about the investigation discovery special on Kay and Larry that aired this past Sunday. And we're going to do that later this weekend. But today we wanted to dive into this transcript that was released.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff on that.
So Fruit Loop, why don't you tell everybody how this transcript came to be?
So apparently Zulema Pastinis, I think I said that right. She contacted through her attorney, contacted Woods saying they would like to meet. And I think Summer wanted to meet as well, I guess. Mm-hmm. So they contacted and Wood went down to Arizona to Chandler Police Department and met with them.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing to me that just came out yesterday was that this meeting was not about the kids from what we've heard. It was actually about Charles's shooting.
Yes.
But we really don't know much more than that. So we're just going to jump right into this because this was the subject of the new court hearing that happened. I think it was pretty much under seal, where they alleged that Wood coached and coerced and intimidated Summer during the course of this. So we're going to dive in, and I'm just going to say I didn't see it.
Yeah, me neither.
So
and
it's a grab.
Yeah. So Means released this before the judge could rule and say don't release it.
Yeah, which...
So that's kind of shady if you ask me, but...
It is, because you're trying to get the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything in there that really made my ears go up, but at least we got a little bit of insight into some things.
Yeah.
Into what the prosecution may be thinking about Lori and sort of how this investigation is unfolding. So that's why we decided to go ahead and hop on this today.
Yeah. So at the beginning, it seems like there's some pages missing.
Yeah.
It's definitely like you come into a conversation that's already started.
Right.
So I would like to know what's on those first two, because I mean, Means released it. So.
But we don't know if he released those first few pages. Is there something in there he didn't want public? Exactly. That's kind of where my mind goes.
Yep. Yep.
So the first thing that Wood was saying was what?
He says they're planning to file conspiracy to commit murder charges for both Chad and Lori.
Right. And so somebody on our Twitter today was asking if maybe this was for Charles, but we don't think so because Wood is only in charge of the kids' deaths.
Yep.
And the charges that come from that. And so Chandler is where Charles was shot and killed, which is why I guess Wood went out there. If this meeting centered around Charles's death, it wasn't in Idaho, it was in Chandler, Arizona.
Yep.
So according to Wood, they have informed Pryor and Means both that they plan to eventually file these conspiracy to commit murder charges. And Wood says that Pryor pretends like that he...
Yeah,
he hasn't heard that before.
Yeah.
And he really didn't give any context, so I don't know if it's maybe more private conversations or just maybe with the filing of the dismissal charges, to dismiss the charges. That's kind of what he's referring to. We don't really know, but according to Wood, it's kind of like it went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I don't hear what you're saying.
No. So Wood says they know this isn't the Lori that everyone says they knew. Mm-hmm. And we've heard that time and time again from Kay and Larry, from just other people that knew her. Oh, this isn't. Yeah, I mean, you heard it from Colby. He said, "My mom would die for us."
Right. Yeah.
So he mentions her making quilts for the kids, made everything fun, and everyone loved her. And
Summer chimes in and says, "Yeah, she's a great mom."
Yeah. So Wood says for Summer to consider maybe something happened. He says he doesn't know if it's psychological or if they will ever know.
Yeah. And I'm sure at this point she's had one or more psychiatric evaluations since she's been incarcerated. And we don't know any of the results for that. And if this goes to trial and they don't plead guilty, then maybe we'll get a little glimpse into what they found. But the more I've thought about this case, if you look back to, like you were just saying, everybody who knew her before, this is all such a shock. Her friend April, was it Raymond in Hawaii, just couldn't believe the difference from when she had seen Lori before, I guess, she really got involved with Chad. And then afterwards, when she goes to collect her as one of the 144,000.
To gather her.
You could tell that it was two different people. And I don't, like Wood says, and Wood can't come out and say, I think it was psychological, because then you sort of open it up to, well, we're going to plead insanity. And you kind of agreed in this transcript that maybe it is psychological and she had a break.
Sure.
But I'm interested to know really what happened.
Yeah, now, I mean, we know from her past that she made bad decisions. She was evil, things like that.
Yeah.
But like we said before, Colby survived. Tylee survived until she met Chad. So
yeah. And I think we all can say, especially for me looking at the Joe Bryan documents, that there was a lot of shady lying going on and little regard for him.
Yeah.
Or other people if they got in her way, like Charles. But I just feel like, I'm certainly not excusing her, but I do almost feel like there's a reason that these cult leaders can get people to drink Kool-Aid and die.
Yep. And
they can take normal people from normal situations and just change the way they think.
Yeah. And I don't know if, in this transcript, it's more of a spiritual controlling, that he's the almighty one. He gets the prophecies, all that stuff. So he controls her that way.
Yeah.
I am and we've been seesawing back and forth, was it Lori in control? Was it Chad? After all this, knowing what Wood knows, it's Chad. I
think so. And they sort of touch on that later where they talk about, in the beginning, they thought it was Lori.
Yep.
And they were like, whoa, does he have any clue what he's involved in? But when they started investigating this case, they realized he was the ringleader. And what was said was that when she started listening to these Julie Rowe podcasts, a lot of Julie Rowe's ideas came from Chad. So kind of in a roundabout way, she was already getting conditioned to Chad's beliefs by listening to Julie Rowe before she really got into Chad's writing or lectures or whatever.
Yeah. And we had never heard that. So
no, but I didn't know this, but Summers said that she did meet Chad at a Preparing a People conference that Summer, her husband, and her mom went to. They were there to support Lori, who wanted to support, and she only said Mel, so I'm assuming Melanie Gibb.
I guess.
Because Melanie Pulowski probably at that point wasn't, I don't think she was going to these conferences that we know of. She may have been, but I don't think I've ever heard that she went to any.
Yeah, I don't.
So I just assumed it was Melanie Gibb.
Yeah. Now she did go, I think I remember her going somewhere with Lori to one, but I don't I don't know if anybody else went to that. So, and it could have been later on. I don't know.
But Summer did say that she very briefly met Chad after one of these.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he called Summer when Lori was transferred from Hawaii to Idaho. And that was a brief conversation. And then he texted Summer saying that Lori wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
And then apparently when she talked to Lori and finished and hung up, Chad called and was asking about bail. She didn't elaborate on the discussion, or if he was saying, can you help, or here's my plan. It was just, that was all Summer said in this transcript.
Yep. So that, I wonder, he was asking for money. We know he don't have that much left.
No, we don't. We found out today that Pryor is listed on the deed to Chad's house. It's actually Pryor and Tammy Daybell still.
Wow.
Her name was on there. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the estate would have been through probate at this point, but I'm not sure why her name is still on there. But that's probably how Pryor is guaranteeing he will be paid for his services.
Yep.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But he's never going to go back to that house. So,
no.
You know.
But the bad thing is, like, his kid's there.
I don't know why they would want to live in that house. I mean, you've got, bodies in the yard, and your mom died in that house, and all three of them were murdered. I don't want to say likely. We don't know for sure with Tammy, but they were all three murdered.
Yeah, unless it's just to hold on to it because your mom loved that place. That's the only thing I can think.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, but still, it's just, for me personally, the weight of all that, I wouldn't be able to be in the vicinity of that house.
No, me neither.
And Summer says she's spoken to Chad 2 or 3 times briefly on the phone.
Yeah. So Chad told her that Lori hasn't told me very much about the kids. So there's not much I can tell you about it. And Wood says, of course he said that. Welcome to Chad Daybell.
Yeah, he's just deflecting. I mean,
he knows
everything.
Yeah.
But he's telling Summer, like, almost pinning it on Lori, like, she hasn't told me what's happened, so I can't help you.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you call and tell your wife.
Yeah, there's a raccoon.
You shot a raccoon and buried it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. So Summer says she has her own opinions about Chad, and Wood says, I bet you do. He's highly manipulative. Now, and Summer agrees.
Right. But what Rob Wood says next was very profound to me, and it's so true in a general sense. He goes on to say that Chad's not highly intelligent, but you don't have to be intelligent to be manipulative.
That's deep.
And that's a really good point. You think about it. I was even thinking about kids. Kids are not super intelligent at like 3 and 4 in a worldly sense, but they can be manipulative.
Sure.
You don't have to be smart.
Yeah.
And I think that's just super scary. And we've talked about it on past podcasts about how people get roped into cults and how they end up doing things they never would have done had they not met this person who, just drug them in.
Yeah. So Wood says that Lori manipulated Chad also, but the context for everything came from Chad.
Yeah. And I thought that spoke volumes because we know so little about this investigation, and something like this gives us a little bit of a hint into where they're going or what they found. And so initially with them thinking it was Chad being the ringleader, but I guess, you start getting into online messages that they have found, text messages, emails, anything like that. It kind of makes me think they found stuff where Chad is pushing her towards extremism or towards just bigger ideas that have consequences.
Yeah, because he later says that they have enough to prosecute Chad, but the case against Lori is stronger. And
see, I would have thought the opposite.
Me too.
I really would have thought
they're in his yard
with the kids being on his property, that it was more of his doing and Alex.
Yep.
And maybe Lori was just sort of complicit in it, but hands off.
Yeah.
But Wood says case against her is stronger.
Yeah. He says Chad didn't care who died or got hurt.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So many bodies.
Yeah. So he says Lori believes everything she has done has been in righteousness. he says she 100% believes.
Yeah, and I kind of think this is how the defense is going to set up. I think this is how. I think this is the only way you can defend her.
Yeah,
Is to say that she is convinced this was okay.
Yep.
And Wood says that every now and then you can hear a little bit of a crack in a jail phone call.
Yep.
But I guess it doesn't last long. So they're obviously listening to every conversation she has.
Yeah. And it was interesting that we know Summer has called her because she talks about talking to her on the phone. And Chad was calling her because they have those conversations.
Yes.
That I think we'll get into in just a little bit deeper into that. But yeah, that was interesting because we're all like, who's calling her? Is her family just totally pushed her to the side, or what's going on there?
But Summer says, she acknowledges that Rob Wood has heard their conversations, meaning Summer and Lori, since Lori's been incarcerated, and Summer says she just isn't fully aware of what she's done. But Wood chimes in and says, I think she knows what she's done.
Yeah.
And I think this is where some people felt like maybe he was telling her, because we had a user on Twitter who said, I read the transcript, and to me, when she says, I don't think she's aware of what she's done, and Wood says, I think she does know what she's done, they thought that was an example of sort of trying to sway Summer into thinking a certain way. But I really didn't feel that way. I mean, it's an opinion. Summer says, okay, I don't think she knows what she's done. And Wood says, I think she does.
Yeah.
I don't think that's, I mean, it would be different, I think, if Rob Wood had said, she knows what she's done.
Yeah.
That's different. But I think Rob saying, I do think she knows.
Yeah. Or you have to believe she knows, like trying to persuade her that, she knows.
But Summer came right back around and said she knew enough to lie to us about it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a big statement because Summer's acknowledging that Lori lied to them.
Yeah.
And if you're out of your mind and you don't know what you've done, you don't have the wits to lie and formulate.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Whatever story she's told them, because we don't know what she's told her family about the kids before she was arrested or they found their bodies. So I just kind of felt like I just didn't see that he was intimidating her by giving his opinion, but I could see how somebody could read it that way, I guess. I don't know, but it's not enough even for a court hearing. Come on.
No.
This is such a waste.
So Wood says the reason this was done was religion. The ideas were out there. No basis in the LDS faith at all. And apparently Summer said this to her on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've said since the beginning, this has to be about religious beliefs. I never thought that it was just to get rid of the kids.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. Money. Yes. I think,
it could be, but I think at the root of it, we're just going to find that at least at the time this stuff happened, I think we're just going to find that she was in a cult mindset, and Chad was kind of like the David Koresh to her, in that whatever he says is the word.
Yep.
If she feels like he has been blessed with this gift from God, then if she is indoctrined into that belief system, she would not doubt Chad.
Yeah.
And I'm not excusing her behavior at all.
Yeah.
But it is a reality that maybe she did just get eyeball deep and lost everything about who she was as a person, as a mother, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it in other cults where these parents will allow their kids to drink Kool-Aid by, what's that guy's name? That
Jim Jones.
Yeah, the Jim Jones guy. I
Yeah.
mean, there were hundreds of bodies everywhere, men, women, and children. And for any parent to, like, in that situation, allow their kids to drink, arsenic Kool-Aid, you're not thinking straight.
Yeah. They get into your mind and tell you all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what he was telling her. I mean, we know he was lying to her and telling her that everybody was supporting her out on the outside.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. So, and then Wood confirms to Summer that she is not a person of interest in this case.
Yeah.
I never really thought she would be.
I didn't think so either.
I mean, here's the thing. There's been so much said about pretty much every family member associated with this on both sides of the spectrum. And it's easy to say, you're Lori's sister, you're terrible, you defended her. But we said this last podcast, if my kids, no, we didn't say it on the podcast, we said it sitting here watching the special the other night. If my kids were gone for a length of time and you said, hey, where are the kids? Oh, they're okay. You would probably never think that I had murdered my kids and buried them somewhere.
No.
Hindsight's 2020. And
Yeah.
I'm sure Summer is looking at the missed signs and signals, or, probably looking back to her extreme views and wondering why they didn't do something at the time. But
Yeah.
you could never imagine she would do this. And that was one thing that Kay said on the documentary was, we just never could have imagined.
Yeah.
That
she said nobody.
No, they really were convinced that these kids were in a bunker until they found, what was it, the scooter?
Yeah.
When they found out that the scooter was in the storage building.
Yeah.
That's when Kay and Larry knew this was not good.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just saying, I could see how over that year, you just don't wake up and think she's going to kill those kids and I've got to intervene.
Yeah. And I think too, they weren't around them. So I think, and we'll touch on this when we do the other podcast on the show thing we watched. But they weren't around her.
Right.
So the only one that was family that was around her was Melanie Pulowski.
Right.
So the rest of them, because that's why it was like, what do you mean, where are the kids? I think Adam says that. What do you mean, where are the kids?
Right.
Colby said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when the police went to ask him, he's like, what do you mean, where are the kids? So I don't know.
Yeah.
The other part here, Wood tells Summer the interview will be tough, but it helps them understand the context of who these people are.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, you can do all of the legwork and pull up digital footprints and messages and text messages. But when you can talk to somebody that has known her entire life, and they can give you little clues about personality issues or this or that, I'm sure it helps Rob Wood to talk to Summer and Adam Cox.
Yeah.
Because they've known her the longest, and anything in the past that might tie in a bit, I'm sure it just helps them get a big picture of her past and present.
Oh, yeah.
So
then it turns, Summer asks about the progress on a cause of death for Tylee.
Mm-hmm.
And Wood says Tylee's body is in a state of the art facility at the FBI crime lab. He says there's a lot of diseased bodies there they're going through. I think he's maybe there trying to justify the delay.
Yeah, I think so. And we touched on this earlier this week, was that we know the kids have not been released to be laid to rest. So, and Wood says they may never know a cause of death for Tylee. I mean, he kind of admits that. That's how I read it.
Yeah.
But he said at the end of the day, they were able to get that soft tissue and do the DNA comparison and confirm it's her.
Yeah.
But it is kind of sad to think that we may never know unless one of them talks about what happened to her, because there just wasn't there. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to work with as far as her body. I mean, they only found a partial human skull, I believe.
Yeah, like the jawbone too.
I mean, so it's I think maybe what'll happen is once these murder charges sort of drop, that's going to be leverage for the prosecutor to sit down with Lori and Chad both and say, hey, look, you got to start cooperating and talking.
Yep.
And that's one thing that comes in later in this transcript is, Wood talking about the leverage they will have once these charges drop.
Yeah. So then Summer says, the way you guys found them, we wouldn't have ever known, and I never dreamed she would hurt them. And then Wood replies and says, everyone says that.
Yeah, and he talks about how grateful he is to have Summer talk with him, and he knows it's hard because the information that Summer gives them could be used to prosecute Lori, but he reminds Summer that this is now about justice for JJ and Tylee and not about protecting Lori.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that the responses after they found the bodies from anybody in her family were really, I don't know that they touched me. I thought they were a little, like Melanie Pulowski especially, was just so defiant.
Yeah.
And it was sort of the opposite of a tribute to Tylee. It was almost shaming all of us for being involved in the case in the media sense, how she said Tylee would roll her eyes at the attention and but I am compassionate for what Summer and Adam have gone through. And Zach, her family, because they didn't ask for any of this. And we always say, you never know how you're going to react if you were put in their shoes.
Yep.
And I'm sure they probably blame themselves for missed signals and things like that. I'm not defending. I'm just saying that there's a different perspective. A lot of times people just want to, sharpen the pitchforks and light the torches, and maybe some of that's justified, but I just try to think about the cluster that especially like her siblings had to have felt when all this came down.
Yep.
Just from a human perspective.
Oh, most definitely. So this next part in the conversation, this is like the biggest part for me. Lori may have been willing to talk to them the day before the bodies were found, or a couple of days before the bodies were found. She thought about talking to them, but Chad talked her out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's
Summer,
big.
oh my goodness. Summer says she prays for her to cooperate. Wood says it would have been better for Lori if she had talked to them about the bodies. That was huge for me.
Yeah, because the night before they went to Chad's property and found the kids, apparently Lori was having a jailhouse call with Chad and says, what do you think about, and Wood said that Chad uses what he calls kind of a spiritual manipulation, which goes back to that original sort of cult leader. You have to listen to what I say. But it seems like a moment of clarity for Lori. I mean, if she knows the police are looking for her children and she knows that they're on his property, it doesn't say specifically that she was going to lead them to the bodies. But Wood says it would have been better if she had have come to us.
Yeah.
Because then the defense has a little bit that they can work with the prosecutor and say, hey, look, she gave up the location of the bodies. She helped your investigation. And Wood just acknowledges, had she done that, it would have been better for her in the long run, I guess. Leniency in sentencing, I don't know. But
yeah, I think with that comment from me, it obviously states whatever they said prior to when they were talking about that she knew and Chad knew. And he's, we don't know what his defense will be, but obviously through that conversation, he knew they were on his property.
Well, and I mean, the night before, that had to have made him nervous, because if you think about it, if she's on the phone saying, should I talk to them about, because that's what it says, and then the next day they pop up at his house, I'm sure Chad probably thought she'd talked.
Yeah.
Because, we know they had that phone call once they were on the property as he's watching them in his yard. But I wonder if Chad initially, when they rolled up, thought, she's ratted me out. She's ratted out where the kids are.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah. So Summer, I don't take joy in doing anything that will harm her or her spending her life in prison. She says it hurts to think about her being there. So she's kind of just talking to Wood about, it's hard for her to, I guess, play a role in putting her sister in jail.
Yeah. And Wood just says there's nothing good about a case like this. Even if you win, the end result essentially is 2 kids are dead.
Yeah.
And there's other people dead too, but Wood's only responsible for prosecuting the kids. And he's right. Even if and they'll win this case most likely. I don't see any way this could go south, but at the end of the day, the kids are still dead, guilty, not guilty, whatever. And that's the take home point, is that it's just tragic.
Yeah.
She's not going to get out of prison.
No, neither of them are.
Ever. No. And so her sister knows that she's going to cooperate with the prosecution, and she's working with the defense. She's working with both sides, and she says that because she mentions that she loved everybody on both sides.
Yep.
So it's got to be a hard position to be in. Regardless of her beliefs about her sister or whatever, it's got to be hard when you're going and talking to a prosecutor about your sibling.
Yeah. So Wood says they were able to put them in jail with a high bail on the lesser charges and build their case, and says essentially when murder charges drop, she will need competent counsel.
Yeah.
He says Means has never handled a felony before or any meaningful criminal work.
How did this happen?
Yeah.
How? I mean, he was there at the initial appearance in Idaho the next day after she was extradited. If you remember, there was a group of 3 and the other 2 quit pretty quickly after that first hearing.
Yeah.
And Mark Means stayed on. So I almost wonder if it's not sort of he's on the case, and we don't know how many defense attorneys they called who said, oh, I'm not touching that with the 10-foot pole. It's a small area, even a few hours away.
He drives, 4.5?
Right. And they say he's there all the time.
Yeah, he must be living there now.
So I'm just curious how he's getting paid. And we've said that pretty much every podcast, the last 3 or 4 episodes. But she can't have any money.
Yeah. Yeah. So Wood says that he is a nice guy when he's not lying about him. But Means doesn't know what he's doing. Also says when they file for their charges, she will get a competent attorney who will advise her cooperating is in her best interest.
And Summers met Mark Means.
Yeah.
Which I wonder I don't know if we ever knew Summer went to Rexburg after they found the bodies.
I didn't know that.
But I don't know if Means went to her or whatever. And then Wood makes a comment about Colby and says he believes out of everybody that's left, Colby's lost everything.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking about Colby just the other night. I think we were at commercial break on the 3-hour documentary, and we were just talking about how there's been a lot of mudslinging towards some family members in Facebook groups and that sort of thing. And we were talking about the, what was it? The kind of like a GoFundMe.
Yes.
That was started by, I think, his mother-in-law for Colby.
Yep.
And people just laid into Colby. And, my point was this. Okay, your siblings are dead. You found out they're buried on your stepdad you never met's property. Your mom's in jail. Stepdad's been murdered. I don't know how anybody expected Colby to wake up every day and go do a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
At least not right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how sometimes these trials take on a whole life of their own. And I really do hate to see family mudslinging, because when you watch that investigation discovery documentary, at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel about what like Kay and Larry or Colby has done throughout all this, you see the weight of all this when you watch that special. And there is a suffering that most of us, thank God, know nothing about.
Yep.
Which is not knowing where a child is, missing, dead, alive, kidnapped. We can't imagine. So for me, that documentary just reiterated that these are real families dealing with a real issue, and the online world and our podcast and all this stuff is so secondary to what they're feeling.
Oh, most definitely.
But we were just talking about mudslinging and how, I don't know.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's just so unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing with the attorneys and just all that stuff. You've got dead people, 2 of them kids.
Yeah.
And Wood said, I do this because I want justice for the kids.
Right.
Wood says, just because someone commits a crime doesn't mean they're a horrible person. Because Summer's talking about being conflicted because Lori's been good her whole life. And she made an error in judgment and got sucked into this vortex of a man. Mm-hmm. She feels compassion for her and says she would have never done this on her own, and she has to pay the price forever and she hates it for her. Then Summer does talk about if this is a death penalty case, and Wood says it is in Idaho, it qualifies, and Summer asks if he's planning to ask for it, and Wood hopes they don't, but a lot of that will depend on Lori.
Yeah, so essentially what'll happen is they'll file these conspiracy to commit murder charges, which this meeting was over 2 months ago, and Wood specifically said in the transcript he was about 2 months away from filing these charges. So maybe by the end of the year we'll have the conspiracy to commit murder charges.
Yeah.
That's just going to change everything about this case, though. It's going to change the pacing of the case. It's going to change dates for hearings. It's going to change probably defense attorneys, and then she's got to start over with her defense with somebody who's brand new to the case, doesn't know the facts of what we don't know, but knows that they've got to go through discovery. It's going to be forever. This isn't going to be a short solution unless Chad and Lori have a moment of clarity and realize that they're backed in a corner and they may as well just plead guilty.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is this: when they file those murder charges, I think what Rob Wood is saying here is then you use the death penalty as leverage. You say, hey, look, this qualifies as death. So unless your client starts cooperating and telling us what happened and telling us the truth, we're going to go for death. Because we're not seeing any remorse. We're not seeing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he can use that. But my overall feeling from reading this transcript was that Rob Wood does not want to put the death penalty on the table for this case.
Yeah. And it sounded, some of it was because of the family.
Oh, yeah. It's horrible.
It never ends.
It doesn't end. And the end result will be that Chad and Lori will breathe their last breath behind bars.
Yeah.
Whether it's strapped down to a table with an IV in your arm, or whether it's old age.
Yeah.
I just, for everybody's sake, I think life in prison, I would be happy with personally. I think the death penalty might, I don't know. I think it just brings another dynamic to this case, like you say.
Yeah.
And if there's mental capacity issues there, that becomes a whole other beast.
Yeah, and with the families, you want them to be able to heal as much as they can. I mean, obviously, they're never going to get over this.
It's going to take years without the death penalty.
Yeah, but if you're having to constantly go into court again,
right,
because of appeals and whatever else,
right,
you can never, regain some of, a little bit of a normal life.
Right.
Not saying you forget anything.
Oh, but, no.
To be constantly drug into court.
It wears a family down so far.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. And, as much as a lot of us probably think, an eye for an eye and what's good for the goose. But I think they're going to have to go with a mental capacity issue with Lori for a defense, and it's going to complicate it so much more.
Yeah, because we know there's no insanity defense or whatever in Idaho.
And on top of it, Idaho just doesn't execute prisoners that much. It's
Yeah.
not like Texas. So it would just be a title, I think, on just a really terrible situation that it's never going to come to fruition.
Yeah. And then Summer does say that if Lori ever snaps out of this trance or whatever she's in, I don't know if trance is the right word, but snaps out of the wherever she is right now mentally, that the weight of all this, that she may prefer the death penalty.
She may, but I'm just not convinced that this La La Land act is genuine. I think it may be an act. I think that you've been in jail almost a year. You haven't been physically around your husband for almost a year. You've had monitored phone calls for almost a year. She has to have snapped out of this. I mean,
You would think, but she is still reading his books and stuff, which I think that's a hogwash.
It does indicate maybe she is just deep into this.
Yeah. Like, how do we, and I mean, I don't understand it. I understand you have some freedom in what you read, but I don't think his books, if what he's done, he has manipulated and done all these bad things. How are one, his book's still on Amazon? How, like, you know what I mean? Like, how is she still allowed to read it when that has helped her do what she's been done?
They're just not gonna ever stand in the way of any kind of religious rights.
Yeah.
Because you're in a state-run institution and you should have freedom of religion. So, you know, I mean, the Boston bomber or anybody who's done something in a religious sense, they still read their religious stuff in supermax prisons.
Yeah.
Because it's a right afforded to you. And so I think that just becomes very cloudy.
Yeah.
You can't deny somebody the right to read their religious preference. As crazy as it is to us, it's still her choice.
Yeah.
So if I were her lawyer, I would probably say I wouldn't recommend reading his books in
Exactly.
jail. But that's such a small thing, I think, compared to where we are.
Oh, yeah.
But it may help the defense, to be honest with you. If they say, hey, look, she killed her kids, got arrested, and a year later is still reading this guy's, her husband's books in jail.
Yeah.
So, and I feel conflicted. So do you ever feel conflicted when you I do not feel sorry for Lori, but when my mind goes to maybe she really just was brainwashed to an extreme, do you ever feel like you feel guilty for thinking that? Because it's just like, with the enormous nature of this crime, it's like, I don't know. I always sometimes feel bad for saying maybe she went crazy, because you want it to be to where she suffers every day, every night, knowing what she did. I don't know. I don't think I'm expressing this right, but sometimes
No, I know what you're saying.
I do feel guilty sometimes when I think maybe she's just crazy.
Yeah.
Because there's a responsibility that she has to take up.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I mean, it just seems to me like even Rob Wood is like, yeah, something happened. Don't know if it was psychological.
Snapped. Yeah.
But I feel guilty sometimes for, I almost feel like maybe I'm excusing it in my head, but I'm not excusing it. It's just, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, you're a mom.
Right.
So
I can't imagine. There's nobody that could convince me I don't even spank my kids. I never have. So to think about going extreme, it's so foreign to me, but it is for every mom who's not crazy.
Yeah. So Wood says things in her life may have played into this, and Summer agrees with him.
Yeah. And if this goes to trial, we may start to hear stories that, if they're going with a mental health defense, that may come from way earlier in her life that would sort of build her to the point to where the kids were killed. And they'll use things in people's past to say, hey, this happened in childhood, this happened in teen years, and this affected who she was at 40 something years old. And that could be part of the reason we're here.
Yeah.
I just don't know that juries buy it a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because there was a case we covered about a kid who, well, he wasn't a kid, he was an adult who killed his parents. And the excuse was one of their friends had molested him, and so he blamed the parents for inviting the guy over. You know what I'm saying? It's just like juries don't really from what I've seen, they understand that things that happen in childhood can shape who we are. But when you start sort of pointing the finger that this was the cause, I've just seen juries reject that.
Yeah. And I mean, in the end, you're responsible for your own actions.
You are.
And it doesn't matter if somebody convinced you to do it or not. Yeah. Can they be held accountable? Yeah. But you're still held accountable as well because you did something. So,
well, I didn't know that Rob Wood was in Hawaii when they served her with the order to produce the kids.
I didn't either.
And he talked about the news showing up. There were a lot of news stations that had caught wind that they were on the island, and it really annoyed him because then you just have that national and worldwide attention on this case. And at that point, if you remember, I mean, she was roaming free.
Yep.
Everybody across the country was like, why hasn't this guy had her arrested? So I think it put so much pressure on their department.
Now, if you remember, I remember watching the Dateline with Keith Morrison, and remember he says they've asked us to lay low and not. He's in his Jeep riding down that road. Remember, and he says something to the effect: "The police have asked us to lay low and not let on that they know she's there, or whatever." Right,
because I think at that point she was just mainly under surveillance.
Yep,
and they hadn't even approached them. I don't believe they had approached them.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That Keith Morrison was there.
Then later on, Nate goes in, guns blaring.
Where are your kids?
Yeah, that was so cool.
Oh man, Nate was just awesome. And on that Discovery special, we saw when Kay and Larry, who like us, were seeing things like the storage locker footage, the footage of Nate in Hawaii. They were seeing it as it came across the websites just like we were.
Yeah.
And so when Lori said that's great or whatever she says to Nate and Kay was watching it.
Yeah.
That was just so interesting to me because Kay's like, look at her smug face or something like that. And which I mean may kind of go back to some sort of a defense, which is when they were showing the footage of her coming into court in Idaho where she's got the Jolly Rancher lipstick on and all that stuff. And you look at the smug look on her face, knowing what we know now. You kind of do wonder, was she just checked out?
Yeah.
It almost seemed like she was at her little Texas pageant, except she was wearing orange.
Yep.
Head up, smirking, grinning, and I don't know.
I'm going to tell you. This is strictly my opinion, but I'm proud of Kay and Larry because there was 2 times in that appearance when she came, she walked right by them. I mean, that's tough to sit there. I just want to jerk up and smack her.
Yeah, and the same thing with Chad when he walked in.
Right by Larry and Kay.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to them for control because I would have just like hopped over that little barrier and they would have cuffed me because I would have attacked.
Yeah, you see that all the time, that happening.
Because, it's like we get so bogged down in these little details and little snippets of news that come out that for me, watching that investigation Discovery special, when you see it laid out from the beginning again and you're sitting there and you're watching a 3-hour special, it's really unbelievable what has happened in this case. And we kind of, for me, I get bogged down in a transcript or I get bogged down in a little fact here and there. And then when you see everything again put forth from day one, it's like, holy moly, this is a huge, crazy case.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, especially when you doubt, are they ever going to charge them? And then you sit and watch something like this, it's like, yeah, they're going to get charged. Do you think they're going to walk away?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to get off in 5 years?
Yeah.
The gravity of this case hit me again when I watched that special the other night.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So Wood says Lori can put on a brave face, but wondered if Chad knew what he had gotten into. That Lori was stoic, and this is talking about when they go to, I think they serve the search warrant on their car or whatever. This was so cool what he said. That Lori was stoic, but Chad looked like he was going to pee his pants. Wood says Chad is a wimpy person. And initially, investigators thought Lori was the ringleader.
Right. And
I thought that was interesting.
That was so funny because I think what Wood is talking about here is when they served that that order to produce the kids.
Yeah.
And so at that point, obviously Chad knows they're on to us. They know the kids. I mean, he knows where the kids are.
Yeah.
And so, but that was sort of when Rob Wood and the investigators thought maybe it was Lori doing manipulating, because I guess of his reaction to them being there and then getting served with this paper. And Chad's like, whoopsie.
Yeah. He's going to pee his pants.
That was,
So then he talks about asking how is she manipulating Chad, and then when they start digging, they saw it wasn't her so much leading as Chad, that these ideas came from him, and of course Summer agrees with him. Wood says Lori had different views on theology, and Chad could manipulate those ideas into more.
Yeah, and that's really kind of how I've thought all along too, was that just given the fact that she hasn't had any trouble like this in the past. But when I first read this story a year ago, it's just been a year on the 20th, I believe, a couple days ago, that this went national. My initial reaction after seeing like the picture of Chad is this frumpy, wearing khakis and plaid shirts, and he's got an ill-fitting belt, and and he got the buzzed head, and then you see the picture of him in Hawaii where he's got like a very hip haircut and he's dressed in like jeans a 20-year-old would wear.
Yeah, you forgot the Doom Balance shoes before you.
Oh my gosh, dude! My 3-year-old son, like my son when he was 3, had a pair of those. They're like those little Velcro brown sandals, and but my initial thought was that woman has done something to this man that he's never had done before, and she's got him where she wants him.
Yeah,
and
it was a total change.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, sort of went from dork to not quite as dorky.
Wimpy.
Yeah, he was wimpy, but
wimpy.
His whole appearance changed.
Yeah.
And so my initial thought when I first read the first article or two about this case was, man, she has just hoodwinked this guy.
Yeah.
And then, as we've gone along over the past year, we find out this guy's like a snake waiting in the grass.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he got, an unwilling soul and brought her in, but I was pretty surprised when the first time we sort of heard that maybe he was the ringleader.
Yeah. So Summer says Chad's influence was there before she met him. So that was like the online communications and books. And like you said before, also Julie Rowe's podcast. But
Summer commented on Julie Rowe constantly referring to herself in the third person.
Yeah.
And she said, it really bothers me.
Yeah.
And I thought, Summer offers Rob Wood some Tylee and JJ wristbands to send back with him. And they had them made up for Tylee and JJ's friends and teachers. And I thought it was really really sweet what Rob Wood said. He said, they weren't in Rexburg long, but they're our kids.
Yeah.
You can, they obviously have a big passion to get justice for these kids, and we know they will. But so do you see where he's bullying her or just like threatening her in this? Because I don't.
No, this is what I was going to say. Like, it makes no sense. One, Garret Smith, who's her attorney, he comments and agrees with Wood on several things through there.
That was, exactly.
And he never once said, whoa, that's, you need to take a step back. That's not professional. Like, he's there to represent Summer and Zulema, and you never hear him say anything. So this is what baffles me is everything in this conversation was, for me, it was okay. There wasn't anything bad. But then why all of a sudden does Garret Smith send it to Mark Means and say, hey, I think this is very, all the things he said and all. It doesn't make any sense.
None.
Like, your client Summer agreed with a lot of what Wood said.
Yeah. But I mean, like you say, at any point, Garret could have said, whoa, we're going to stop this right now. And I'm not comfortable with her talking about this. I'm not comfortable with your opinions being put into this.
Yeah.
It just seems so underground.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was planned.
Yeah.
It seems like a setup to me, honestly.
Yeah. So, after this conversation ended, she went and she was interviewed by the police. Wood wasn't in there.
Yep.
So it's baffling to me why.
The only reason they want to get Rob Wood off this case is because Rob Wood knows these facts probably memorized front to back. And they know that Rob Wood's got a solid case.
Yes.
Because even, and it's not going to happen, but let's say Wood was ever removed from this case, they're going to put somebody else on it who's going to be as competent as Rob Wood.
Yeah.
And the end result's probably going to be the same. Guilty, or we plead guilty, or the jury finds you guilty. So to me, this is just a lot of drama where there's no basis for it that I see.
No. I don't see anywhere where he went out of line.
But I think when you're desperate and the facts are stacked against you, what do you have to lose to try to trip the process up? They're not tripping up facts. They're not trying to discredit facts. They're trying to get the main guy who's leading this thrown off the case because maybe in their mind they feel like they have a better chance of getting her off.
Yeah.
But it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, but it did say in there somewhere, and it kind of that she possibly will talk to them. To me, it kind of hinted that way, that Lori may talk to.
I mean, look, if she was considering, and by what we read, was considering giving up the location of the kids' bodies.
Yep.
Before they found the kids' bodies, and she didn't do it, but when these murder charges drop and that reality hits her, right now, I know she's got I don't know, maybe like 10 years, 20 years. I'm not sure what she's up against. I forget all these numbers. When you're stuck with double, conspiracy to commit murder charges, it's going to get real for her.
Yeah.
And like Wood says, you get a competent defense attorney in there who's looking out for her, who says, look, you just need to cooperate with the authorities because they've got you in checkmate. That's what she needs as an attorney who says you're screwed 10 ways to Sunday. You're not going to wiggle out of this. Your only hope is to give in.
Yep.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's kind of what Wood is waiting on for those to drop. And then I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like if I were Rob Wood, given the fact that Mark Means has never tried a felony, at what point could he not go to this judge and say, look, Your Honor, he's not qualified to represent her?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible, but
I think by the way he told Summer, he knows Means is not going to represent her when it gets those conspiracy to commit murder charges come.
And I just assume that they're probably going to give her a public defender. She doesn't have money. I don't see her family banking this defense that's going to go on for years and years and years. I mean, Chad's house money is going to run out at some point. These lawyers aren't cheap. That house can't be worth, I think we looked it up one time. It was maybe like 140. Was it 140,000? I'm not sure, but
144.
In a criminal defense attorney standpoint for a case this big, I don't know that money's going to go super far.
Yeah.
So maybe in the end, they both get public defenders. I don't know. But I still say we hopefully see some charges in the next few weeks. I mean, his timetable could have changed just like they did with Charles. They said, well, we should have those charges around this time of year. And then they came back and clarified maybe a month ago and said, we didn't say a definite 4 months from now.
Yeah.
So we just don't know. But you've got these hearings set up for June of next year. They're not going to wait until May to drop these charges because you've got lawyers preparing to go to trial.
Yeah. I think we're going to hear before the end of this month.
I think so too. That's kind of my gut right now. And maybe when the kids' charges drop, that's when the hammer drops with Tammy.
Yep.
That's when, maybe they're just going to drop these all kind of in a package deal.
Yep.
And say, here's what we're looking at. And then when you start getting conspiracy to commit murder for Lori in regards to Tammy, because Rob Wood mentioned in the past, we may have enough to charge them both even without the autopsy. Well, he said them both. So not only are you going to have double murder charges for your children, you got Tammy's murder. We know she's got charges. She's 4 murders that she's going to be charged with. And at some point, will that weight cause her to crumble and just cooperate? I think maybe it will.
Yep.
I really do. If not, one will turn if they haven't already. And they'll start squawking about facts.
Yeah. And you think, we know Summer's talking to her, so maybe
sometimes
talking to her.
Yeah, sometimes it takes somebody that you know and you've known for your whole life to say, hey, look, you can't wiggle out of this. The best thing you can do is try to do what's right from this point forward.
Yeah.
But you never know if Chad has conditioned her to not listen to anybody, including family, which is a lot of cult leaders do. They isolate you from your family. Who knows? I mean, maybe she's just so gone that you're never going to break that ice, but I don't think so. I think number one, she's more aware than she gives off.
Yeah.
And it's not like Lori to be backed in a corner. This is new for her. She's always wiggled her way out every single time.
Yep.
Every accusation against an innocent person or anything in her life, she's always come out ahead. And I think maybe she's like an animal in the corner and she's shaken and scared because this is the first thing in her entire life she can't just bat her eyes and get away with.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I'm going to go back and I want to listen to the recording. This just hit me. The recording with Melanie Gibb and Chad and her when the whole thing drops and Melanie's like, records that how she talks in that recording, how Lori talks. Mm-hmm. I think it's telling. Like she says, you know me, Mel. You know me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's
really true.
Yeah. Like I want to go back and listen to that now after hearing what Wood has said and all that manipulation, to go back and just listen to what she's saying. I mean, you can hear it.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get new information, it makes older things make more sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I said for me is watching that special, seeing it again come from beginning to end. You just kind of sit back and go, whoa. I mean, like, This is a huge case. They're so guilty. There's nothing. Because if you remember, Lori told, I forgot who she told, maybe Melanie Gibb, Alex doesn't know where JJ is. Well, Alex did know what happened to JJ, but she really blew her defense of being able to play stupid.
Yeah.
Between that, statement about Alex not knowing where JJ, and that was on that phone call, I believe. That was recorded, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's all going to crumble down, but I'm sure right now, probably more than the weight of her children being dead, with somebody like Lori, it's oh my gosh, I'm trapped. My foot's in a bear trap and I can't get out. So what do? Do you play crazy? Maybe you do.
Yeah.
She's very manipulative. So for me, the act of, oh yeah, she's still so deep in this cult. I don't know if I trust it.
Yeah. No.
Because in her mind right now, it could just be about survival of, hey, if they think I'm crazy, they'll send me to a hospital instead of prison.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's going through her mind. But so we're going to do the special, probably Sunday on Investigation Discovery, the Doomsday, Where Are the Kids, which we thought was very enlightening.
It's got some new stuff in it. We'll talk about how Charles and Lori met, some things that Lori told Adam. Mm-hmm. There's just all kind of stuff. That we're going to cover, and we're going to do that Sunday, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Tuesday. Tomorrow is sort of let me run around and get everything I realize I need to get. That's my, oh my God, I got to go shopping day and finish up. And then we got Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Saturday to get these trees out of my house because my cat just is in like heaven climbing up it. So Sunday don't start laughing about my cat.
They said get a cat, they said. It would be fun, they said.
Yeah, Fruit Loop has seen me do my angry voices with my cat because I Googled it.
Guys, I was trying to film it so we could post it.
Oh no, I didn't know you were trying to film it.
No, I wish I could have. I can't get my phone out quick enough.
You have to get on the floor.
No, she's over on the floor next to the Christmas tree making these all these noises. It was really fun.
But I Googled it and it said if you make angry cat noises at your cat, it will scare them into submission. And I can confirm it does not. It just ticks them off.
Yeah, because the cat came rearing out.
Cat lunged at me.
It was that. It was that noise. It was like that mean cat noise, like that noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Oh
comical.
my gosh, Fruit Loop about fell off the couch.
Yeah. So. Okay, animals are good. like Noah saved 2x2. Animals are fine. But over here, it's like the cats and the dog know that they annoy me.
Yeah, my animals just annoy me.
I told her, I said, I feel like I'm sitting in the middle of Noah's Ark.
Well, my big dog, River, he likes to lick Fruit Loops' elbow.
Yeah, like he just walks up and just licks me on the elbow.
Like 5 times an hour when she's here. And then the cat just attacks her feet. I mean, whether you're sitting or walking, it's just really funny.
Like, it gets to the point that before I leave my house, I say, oh, wait, I've got on flip-flops. I got to put my boots on.
That's so bad.
I'm going over there because the cat will attack me.
I tried to Google and I tried to work it out, but kitty cats don't like to be hissed at by humans.
Yeah.
I about lost my other eyeball.
Yeah. So I've got to give a shout out real quick because look, I don't know what the lady's name was. It says, don't say you've taken up. We've been on here an hour and 2 minutes. So
holy moly.
There's a lot of stuff, but I took your 3 kids today for a photo shoot.
Yes, it was very secretive. She called last night and said, hey, your kids need to be ready at 12:30. Don't ask questions. And can I just say, Fruit Loop is the best gift giver because she gives personal, heartfelt gifts that relate to family, and they're the best. So I'm super excited to see these pictures. I may post one on my Twitter of my youngins.
It was so much fun. So we went to this old house. It was in my uncle's family, and it was just so cool. Your oldest is such an old soul.
She is. She's she's definitely. I always say it. I know there's not past lives, but she would have lived 1,000. Just very much like a 40-year-old woman trapped in a 15-year-old body. But
and your son got to drive a 68 Chevy truck through a farm field.
Well,
it was so cool.
I'm so sad they're growing up.
Yeah.
It's like I look at them and I still see toddlers, and my son sounds like a grown man and just getting taller every day, and it really happens too fast. They grow up.
Yep.
But
so Sunday.
Yes, we are going to dive into that investigation discovery special, and there were a lot of hidden nuggets, like you said in there, that just gave some insight to some things that had happened before that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you guys have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see it before New Year. But it's a different year with COVID. Everybody stay safe, and we both have family members right now that have it that aren't doing well, and. So just keep yourselves and your loved ones safe, and be blessed, and just enjoy the holidays together. Because things like this case, it makes you, for me, it makes me appreciate my children. I don't know what I'd do without one of my kids. That's my worst fear. So I just, anytime I think of this case, I think of my kids, and just think, I'm so blessed to have healthy, loving children, and I just wish that it had been different for JJ and Tylee. They didn't deserve it, but we're going to be here while justice is served.
That's right.
But Merry Christmas, guys. Enjoy it.
Eat turkey.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what you eat, but we're eating turkey and dressing and mac and cheese and all that good stuff.
Green beans, mashed potatoes, some rolls, some banana pudding.
Chocolate eclair cake.
Thank God for elastic pants.
Oh, I know. I'm wearing my sweatpants.
Getting my fat girl pants out.
Already said it.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.